The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, whoever builds a mosque for Allah, Allah will build for him a similar house in Jannah. And we know the great reward that will not only be gained, but rather will fill your grave after your death. Whenever someone prays there, whenever someone gives shahada in the masjid, whenever someone learns something in the masjid, yes, that will be something that you'll have on your scale. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? We haven't seen Ali Dawa for a while, but we've got someone else. Someone who we started the channel with actually 10 years ago. We done the first videos on this channel, on this notorious and prominent channel, Muhammad Hijab channel, the best channel on YouTube. Me and you made the videos together. You remember that? How was that? Must have been the best days of your life, really. And then you went and done other things. You got nothing to say about that? Well, now this is your debut. Okay, no.
The pro debut, the amateur debut was before. 10 years
yes.
ago. This is the pro debut.
This is the pro debut. And we're going to be getting straight into it with something that we've already spoken about. Actually, we've done a video about feminism. Okay, something we both don't like, frankly, if you want to put it that way, and what it's done to our communities and what it's done. That's not to say we don't like feminists and people who associate with that kind of thing. There's a distinction we make, isn't there?
It's damaging. Yeah. I think we see the damage that it can bring to society, that it can bring to families, that it can bring to social constructs.
Yes.
And that's the reason we don't like it. Like you said, it's not in the individual, it's in the ideology.
Some people who classify themselves as feminists, we have no qualms with them as people. In fact, some of them are very nice people, are very compassionate and respectful people. But we came across this video of Candice Owens, who has actually been in the good books of the Muslim community recently because of her stance in Palestine. She's been very gallant and very respectable. And in fact, to be fair, like she is taking very principled stances against the Daily Wire. She was dismissed by them, and most people say that it's because that she took those stances against Palestine. So we have a lot of respect from that perspective. But I recently saw, because I was on the Jubilee channel with all these kind of people around one person, and she was debating all these feminists. And we both watched the video. We wanted to maybe react to a couple of segments from within it so we can speak about these very pertinent and poignant issues. So maybe let's hear the first thing and then come back and respond in kind.
Life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see...
Yeah, so we've seen the back and forth there. And then Candice does make, after this, she makes a few points about suicide rates, etc. But I think what should have been mentioned by Candice here, to be honest, are the main studies on the declining female happiness. So one of the main studies that was relatively recently put out was a study by Stevenson called The Paradox of Declining Female Happiness. And in fact, it built upon the studies of Blanche Walder and Oswald, who had this longitudinal study from the 1970s up until 2000. And they went to the United States of America, they went to England, and they actually surveyed women psychologically, right? And asked them if they feel better or worse, if their satisfaction in life, despite like conditions economically being much better for them, because obviously this is after the civil rights movement and after the second wave, introduction of second wave ideas and stuff like that, like the gender wage gap, the abortion, all these things were enshrined into legislation now. But what they found was that women were becoming less happy. So despite them being more in work, more in terms of career and etc., they're actually less happy. And a lot of the reason is because of the burden, okay, of being at work, having a double burden, being a mother, doing all these things at once. What do you have to say about that, Ahmed? What do you think of these findings?
Notice how it's never called the burden of a career or the burden of work, but it's always referred to as the burden of childbirth or the burden of children. Like even the language which is used is very deliberately chosen when you're speaking about a career or work or a boss.
Yes.
Versus when you're speaking about children or family or a husband.
Yes.
And I think that can't be ignored. That's one.
That is a very good point. Yeah.
Two, just going back to the claim, which is that you will be more fulfilled if you have children as a mother, as a woman. You will feel more fulfilled, i.e. more happy in life if you have a family, if you have children. This is like, I don't even understand why this is a conversation. Why is this a point of contention? It's biology. You are literally, one of your main functions as a human is to reproduce. It's one of the main, almost you could call it, if you want to, a purpose of being a human being. One of the main things that you can do as a human is to reproduce. And it's so important. It's an urge, right? It's an urge to reproduce. Both men and women have this urge. Why are we attempting to sideline those urges and those desires and, quite frankly, needs? Why are we attempting to sideline that in the name of happiness, when in reality we know that it's not actually making you more happy?
It's making you less happy, actually.
Exactly. But then the moment you make a claim like that, you'll see just how defensive a lot of the feminists they get.
That's true.
They get incredibly defensive.
And what she said, the other woman that was speaking to Candice, by the way, she's very articulate and she was coherent, so to give her credit for that, and she was trying to make an argument. However, she was mistaken in her argument, right? So she was saying, look at the Nordic countries, look like basically the Scandinavian countries, they have a higher happiness rate, etc. But what she's actually looking at is the happiness index, okay? And even if you look at the happiness index website, if you go on their website, it's an economic indicator. It is not a psychological indicator, to the point where they actually spell this out themselves. So they admit that happiness index is not an actual measure of how happy or sad people are. In fact, if you look at the happiness index, you'll find that, for example, it includes things like Human Development Index. It includes things like GDP per capita. It includes GDP. It includes like life expectancy or literacy rates, wherever it may be. But the assumption is that if you have those things in place, then you're more happy. And then they base the happy countries on the ones that have higher economic variables like that. But we know rich people in the West, despite having all those things that we just mentioned, being in great conditions comparative to the rest of the world or other parts of the world, are still not happy. Because when you look at for example, Forbes magazine done a study with the WHO, the World Health Organization, and they found actually 19 out of 20 most depressed countries in the world are actually Western countries. And that's another layer of paradox here. So you've got the paradox of female happiness, which is that they expected when you give women all these rights and you let them go out and work and whatever, they'll be more happy. Actually, they found the opposite. And you have the paradox of capitalism, because in a sense, you expect to give more people more money and then be more happy. And actually the opposite is true. And it's interesting because I was speaking to Dembski, who wrote Dopamine Nation, actually, and she had written this in her book, and I had spoken to her about this in the podcast, that she mentions is, it's still the case in the West, that you have all these things going on. So it's not true. What she's saying is actually false. And for her to connect it with sexual orientation, I mean, there is zero evidence that being gay makes you happier than being there is zero evidence. Okay, there is zero evidence. In fact, I'm so sorry to say there's evidence to the contrary. Yeah, there's evidence to the contrary, because if you look, for example, I was speaking to another person called Wolfinger, and he had written these books about, you can find the podcast, he's written these books on divorce and stuff like that. And I asked him, he's a demographer, and he deals with what are the structures of the families that are most happy? And he said a nuclear family, for example, a nuclear family with mother and he even said a religious nuclear family, that they attend, for example, some kind of worship once a week or something like that. So don't pretend, okay, that 2 men or 2 women are going to give you the same happiness, the same quality of life, the same satisfaction as a traditional nuclear family, because there's nothing in sociology or psychology, peer-reviewed, respectable, that actually backs up your claim.
Aren't lesbians the most abusive?
And she makes that case, I think, Candice, in somewhere. There is good evidence to show that in lesbian, because think about
lesbian
it.
relationships.
If you think about it, bro, like when you've got a man and a woman, you've got power imbalance. Okay.
I'm sensing some flamboyance.
no. I mean,
Yeah,
but it's true. Maybe not with some of the people watching this at home, some of these guys, but so you should have naturally a power imbalance. When you have siblings that are like same kind of same strength, same size, they fight each other all the time,
that's
and
right.
it's inconclusive. But when you have one strong and one much weaker, then it creates stability. That dynamic. So when you have 2 gays or 2 like men or 2 women, then the abuse on both sides is likely to be more. It makes more sense that way anyway. But let's see the next clip, because we want to we can't go through everything.
But before we do, there's just one extra point I wanted to mention, which is you mentioned let the woman work and giving the woman the rights and what have you.
Yeah.
It's not only I want to focus on the letting the woman work part. It's not just letting women work. And by the and
or
also
working,
should be mentioned,
letting her or not, her working. Yeah.
No, but it should also be mentioned. Like the issue here is not we don't think women should work. That's not what we're saying. Yeah. Because obviously we know a lot of these statements can get taken out of context very easily. It's not just letting women work. It's encouraging women to work, and not only encouraging, but making
as a substitute to being a mother.
Yeah, but also making it incredibly disadvantageous to not work. It's you put all of the, especially the financial stress and pressure and strain on a family unit or a household, like we see here in the UK, for example, in London. Look how expensive it is to rent a very, very basic, quite shabby, to be quite frank, quite a shabby home, like a 2-bedroom flat. It's very expensive, and even if you have a decent middle class job like a teacher, you might be earning 2.5k a month, but your rent is 1.5k, and on the bills, add on some groceries. Before you know it, you're left with like £100-200 a month. Like, is that really a way to live? So a lot of people, they find in order to mitigate that problem is to have a 2-income household, which has obviously now become the norm. So it's not just letting women work or encouraging women to work, it's making it almost impossible for women not to work. And I think that also needs to be mentioned.
It is, and they're doing it for economic reasons, because they want to tax half the population. It makes sense from their perspective. But the thing is, if you think about it from the other perspective, when you don't have a cohesive family and a woman looking after children traditionally, right? A man and a woman, but like you have a primary role of a woman mother doing it, especially in the formative years, when you don't have that, then these kids are more likely, according to most studies, to come out to be criminal, to come out to be degenerate, psychological and pathological issues, and so on and so forth. And then that is taken back from the economy, because if they're criminals, then they go to prison, then they can't give taxes. If they're sick, mentally sick, then they can't be as productive. If they're physically sick, they can't be, and so on and so forth. So they think they're saving money from one perspective, but they're losing it from another. And the health of the society is more important than how much money ends up in the treasury in the UK, for example, or the US or any other country. Let's see the next clip.
Okay, how many women have paid maternity leave?
Okay, that's not...
Like, how are things panning out in the family courts? Why are abusive men having access to their children? Like, why are women making less than men? Like, what? I mean, none of that means anything to me.
If I may.
No, please, yeah, of course.
The terminology, the use of the vocabulary, the word abuse, and just what can fall underneath that, the umbrella of the word abuse. When we're saying abuse here, like she was mentioning how many abusive parents have access to their children. I'm going to get to the children part in a second. But when we mention abuse, it's worth noting that in the eyes of the law, abuse can mean very, very many things. Very many things. Is that good English?
Yeah, it's good. Very good.
I don't know why that sounded weird.
Yeah, it's still
many things. Yeah. Right? It can mean physical abuse.
Yeah.
It can mean mental abuse. It can mean emotional abuse. And then what falls underneath emotional abuse? Oh, he made me feel small. He made me feel little. Why did he make you feel little, Lily? Oh, because he's 6'6" and handsome and dashing.
6'7", right?
6'7". I wasn't talking about you, brother. 6'7", handsome and dashing.
You're talking about the handsome. It has to be me. What are you talking about, brother?
So, like, it could be anything. Oh, okay. And he said that the way I cut the cucumber was triangles, and he doesn't like triangles. And I put a lot of effort into that salad, and he didn't appreciate my efforts. So, for that reason, I felt abused.
Now they have stretched the meaning of that. And do you know what the sad thing about that whole thing is? The sad thing is that for people who actually suffer from actual abuse, actual abuse, that they are hurt physically, and it doesn't always have to be physical. There are psychological abuses.
100%.
Yeah, we're not saying there is no such thing as psychological abuse.
Absolutely.
But when it's genuine, and then these other people are just using the term around loosely and making it loose currency, kind of like the word anti-Semitism.
Yeah, 100%.
When you overuse it, it's like a currency. It becomes overvalued. It becomes inflated.
It loses its value.
It becomes inflated in value when there's a lot of demand. When there's a lot of supply and not enough demand. It's the law of. So when you keep using something, it's like you're supplying the economy with abuse. So abuse has just become one of those things now.
Yeah,
it's like anti-Semitism or whatever. Like if you attack Israel, it's just one of those things now. So people have to be cautious in their use of that, because if they don't use this stuff correctly, and from our paradigm perspective, we have Quran Sunnah tell us what true abuse is and what true abuse isn't. As Muslim people, we know, if you want to know what abuse is dhulm, essentially. That's what oppression.
That's right.
And for us to know what abuse is, all you got to do is say, okay, what does Islam allow? For example, there are some things Islam allows that some other feminists and others would consider it to be abusive. So the idea of male authority, male men in a household saying to a woman, do this and do that or whatever, making a final judgment on issues, that's considered to be coercive control or abusive to some people. But in the Islamic lens, it's not necessarily so.
Obviously not.
So do you know what I mean? Unless he tells us to do something which is like, haram, there's no obeying the creation, the disobedience.
Exactly. Like you can't tell her prostrate to me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you cannot. There's no disobeying the creation and the disobedience to the Creator, as the Prophet told us. But the point I'm making is, so this use of the word abuse. But then, I don't think men should be singled out with this, because if you really think about it, bro, like, you tell me, why shouldn't they be singled out?
So she mentioned how many abusive fathers have access to their children. Now, there's something which needs to be mentioned here.
Tell me.
If he was abusive to the mother of the children, and then obviously the question comes, what kind of abuse? Does that mean, would that hinder his access to his children? Because obviously there will be cases. There will be cases where that does make sense. There will be cases where the father should be
stop that. If he tries to kill the woman,
do you know what I mean? Mean, of course,
or something even less than that. But
exactly. There are many cases. But if the issues of this abuse, whatever that may be, are between him and her and have nothing to do with the children, then why on earth should the children be punished? And we see this a lot. We see this a lot.
Especially if it's a subjective thing where she thinks abuse and it's not consensus definitions of abuse.
Oh my word. And you throw in, is there evidence enough? Throwing all of these things into the works, and before you know it, you can claim anything to be abuse. You can make lies and get away with it and say, well, this happened. Because it's almost like you're guilty until proven innocent in certain circumstances. And then the worst thing about it is how many. So she's mentioning the abuse of the father, and then how he has access to the children. How many women have abused the father? Not just the father abusing the mother. How many mothers have abused the fathers by restricting their visitation rights to the children? Or we see this very, very often.
It's true. And they're abusing their kids by doing that.
They are damaging the children, and this is the worst thing.
They're abusing them.
A lot of the time, it's abuse.
It's abuse. That is abuse.
Put a whole bunch of things under the umbrella of abuse.
That's abuse.
That's real abuse. That's mental, psychological. The only thing it isn't is probably physical, to be honest with you. But that's serious abuse on the children. And whilst we claim that we want the best for our children and we love our children, and that's not what's best for them.
No.
That's not what's best for them.
Uh-huh.
Them having a relationship with their father, that's something which we know from the evidence,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you're going to cite now, in terms of single parent households and just how more likely they are to enter gang violence or enter
But like
crime.
the boy crisis written by Warren Farron.
Yes.
Is that how you say his name? Yeah. Warren Farrell or Warren Farron, one of the two. But
Anyway.
sometimes I get confused between the two. But it's the name of the book is The Boy Crisis. It's where he cites all these examples and stuff of how basically a single parent household has, and especially a single parent household with a woman, by the way. He seems to indicate that if it's with a man,
Yeah.
they have more success.
Yeah, I saw evidence. Sorry to cut you.
Warren Farrell. Yeah.
I saw evidence to suggest that children that are raised in a joint household, mother and father, have high likelihood to be successful.
Yeah.
Children that are raised solely by their father have a high rate of being successful, and children that are raised solely by their mother don't have a high rate. Not as high a rate of being a successful.
Doesn't mean that
child.
we can't have people like
Obviously.
me and you who are
It's true. No, that's true. Of course, it goes
the
like
exceptions of the rule here.
that's, but that's exactly what it is, right?
Yes,
like
yeah.
there are rules and there are exceptions to the rule, and it's very important that we don't rewrite the rule based on the exception.
That's true.
Like,
But no, this is a good point. And I think it's also worth noting, okay, that according to many charities, a lot of like children charity, I think the NSPCC being one of them, that actually abuse that happens to children, and of course they have their own definitions of abuse, and that can be critiqued like anything else academic. But according to their definitions of abuse, mothers are actually way more frequently abusing their children than fathers. Now that's not to say that they're worse than them or anything like that. Mothers in many ways they put so much more sacrifice, and our religion tells us to put a lot of respect on mothers, and back, you know, your mother, then your father, and all these hadiths where the Prophet is indicating that companionship should go to the mother. In fact, the institution of motherhood, the idea of motherhood, you know, the vocation of motherhood, all of that is so much higher in Islam probably than any other religion. Okay. And it's mentioned so many different times. The Quran, even when it says وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, you know, to both of your parents be good, is referencing a root etymological word, walidain, which indicates the one who gave birth to you, which more suits the mother, really. And in fact, the Quran specifically mentions the mother. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ أَوْ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا حَمَلَتْهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا, and so on. She held him, and it was difficult for her. She hated doing it, and then she gave birth. So Allah gives credit in the Quran to mothers, and Islam
Very
gives
high
credit.
status.
Very high status. And this is one of the problems, bro. You know, feminism, it really does demote the institution of motherhood.
Big time. It's almost like, oh, you wasn't able to do anything with your life, so you just had a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. That was your only purpose, huh?
And you know, there's a very, if you want to read one book, honestly, we're really good on this, yeah. It's a book by James Tooley. It's called The Miseducation of Women. And he breaks it down. And one of the things that he mentions is, honestly, I really recommend this book. I mean, it's an excellent book. And one of the things that he mentions in the book is what he refers to as domestic drudgery, okay, which the feminist movement made it's like mopping the floor as a form of abuse. If she's cleaning the house or something, if she's making a meal for so these ideas started to be promulgated in the 1960s by second-wave feminists, but now they have been debunked, and they've shown that it's not the case that women, as we've just shown, right, feel more entrapped and feel less satisfied by doing these things. And in fact, there's good evidence to show the opposite.
You know, Candice Owens?
Yeah, that's right. Her name is, yeah.
Candice Owens, at the end of this, she says something which I found quite profound. It's
Yeah.
very simple, but very powerful. She has a book, obviously, called Make Him a Sandwich.
She got a book like this.
I think she has a book that's called Make Him a Sandwich.
She got a book like this, yeah?
Yeah. She's got a book called, I believe it's a book anyway, but they mentioned
Good one, huh?
I don't know. I didn't read, I just ate the sandwich. So at the end, she says, I think we can all agree, like her and the 20 feminists that she was with, she said, I think we can all agree that a sandwich is a good thing. The question is just who makes it. And I think that was quite profound. Like, the whole problem is not about the sandwich. It's just about, who does it. And if it's a woman that's doing certain things, it's demoting her, like you said.
Yeah.
Like,
But you know, it's mad. It's like, if she was working as a chef and it's her own career, there's no demotion there. If she's working as a waitress, bro.
Absolutely not.
and she might be getting peanuts. Sorry to say, how many
And getting treated worse.
Getting
treated worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there another thing that we should be? One more. I think there's one more, right? Yeah. One more thing to react to.
It just shows you that there is fundamentally a hatred for tradition, and I think that hatred is being bred into women.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of the time, whenever you mention anything which is stereotypically related to that of a housewife, it gets so much negativity.
Yeah,
you mentioned something like the title of her book. Oh, Habibti, can you make me a sandwich? Why would you demote her? Why don't you make your own sandwich? It always turns into this. Do you know what I mean? It turns into this whole. What's up?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's
why don't you make your own sandwich? Are you not capable of that yourself, huh? Big Mr. Big Strong Man, and it turns it into something else completely. Like when are people gonna understand that the family unit is a team? When you have a football team, you might have Ronaldo scoring the goals.
Yeah.
All right. He has his role. The midfielder has his role. The defender has his role, and the goalkeeper has his role. Some roles get more attention than other roles. We're not saying that.
The striker.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like that's all the highlights are goals. Most of the highlights are goals, right? When's the last time you saw a highlight? What a fantastic save!
Sometimes,
right? It does happen.
Sometimes,
but ratio.
Yeah.
The ratio is way more strikers hitting goals or midfielders hitting goals or what have you. They're still a team. And the striker without a goalkeeper, he's gonna lose the match. And the goalkeeper without the striker is most likely going to lose the match. So everyone has a part to play in the puzzle. Everyone has a part to play in the game, if you will, or in that unit, in the family unit. We know that to serve others is actually honourable. To serve others is an honourable thing. And I don't understand why a woman serving her children or serving her husband is looked down upon. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point, bro. Because once again, if you put that same behavior in another context, where you're giving her a contract and a white man's doing it, it becomes acceptable. If the white man's doing it in a restaurant or in some kind of airplane where she's an air hostess or something like that, it's absolutely fine. She's getting paid. It's his job. It's a career. You bring this, even if you give that, let's say like for like, you get the same money as this. But you do it in this context. Instead of doing it to 30 different people, you're just doing it to one. It becomes unacceptable. And the reason is not because of the money. It's not because of the work. The reason is simply because it's this man here who she don't rate.
And I think it comes back to this man is clipping her wings. It's because of this man that she's unable to chase her goals and chase her passions and chase her dreams and chase her career. It's because of him. He's the problem. And then all of this
resentment,
self-frustration gets directed into hatred to this one individual. It becomes a lot easier to blame a problem on a person.
Yes,
it's so much easier to blame your own personal problems on anyone but yourself. That's the easy way out.
It's the right-wing approach. It's like the far right, the immigration.
Exactly. Taking our jobs, mate. Taking our jobs.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. This is resentful, disgruntled housewife. She's taking our jobs. It's essentially the same thing, isn't it? If you think about it. Anyway, I think it was an interesting performance by Candice. It wasn't highlighted before. It was interesting to see someone outside the community, but someone who represents Christian values, and traditional values, and who's respected by the Muslim community, taking on these feminists and being sober in her approach and being able to tactfully deal with the matters. I think it was good to see a woman doing it. I know it sounds cliche to say that, but to be honest, it is good to see women doing this kind of thing, because as much as we can speak here and make cogent and coherent points, which we have made throughout, I'm sure the listeners will agree, it's sometimes more psychologically comforting for women to hear it from other women, or men to hear things from other men. Sometimes it is like that. But it doesn't mean it's a condition, though. And having said that, you're going to start up your YouTube page soon, aren't you?
Yep.
And when you do, I think all these people are going to want to come and see what you've got to offer.
If they like my style, then ahlan wa sahlan. And if you don't, then it's all good, man.
It's all good. You can make him a sandwich. And with that, we will conclude with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey you! Are you wasting your time on social media again? Your brothers and sisters in Islam Net from Norway are establishing a masjid, a dawah center. Establishing a masjid to convey the message of Islam is one of the best deeds a Muslim can do. There's a huge need for it in Norway. You know this and I know this. So that makes the reward even greater.
So give generously and Allah Azza wa Jal will give you even more.